I really do appreciate everybody here, and I know a few of you have asked me to do some one-offs with you, and just kind of wasn't avoiding anybody. It's just probably, I just really haven't done that in the past. There are managers that do it, some don't. You talk to you guys at critical times, whether it's deadlines, year-end, things like that, and it's been a normal standard. But anyways, I just figured we would all get together, give you guys an opportunity to ask me some questions and where we're at. But before we get into that, again, I do appreciate your time, and I thank you for coming, and I know you do have some questions. But this is on me. This is where we're at right now is on me, and I'm one to take accountability on myself. And accountability is a word that we use a lot with every part of our organization, and not witch hunting or I just came back from our yearly scouting meetings, because part of my job isn't just the on-ice talent and what we're doing, wins and losses. It's to oversee an entire organization, to go through where we're at when we're drafting or personnel, player development, athlete care, analytics, and basically how can we improve? How can we get better? What can we learn from the past? So that was this past week, but you're also watching every single game and every single shift. And yeah, it's a lot better when you're winning hockey games. But this is on me. But I will say we are a collaborative organization, and we're all in this together. And the one thing I'm trying to do is find solutions to help this organization move forward, to become the team that we believe we can be. So, the standards and the expectations, they've been set by everybody in this organization, starting with me, and starting with our team, because of how well we've played in the past to where we wanted to go the next year, and if we could add to that group of the core players to help them continue to grow, has all been the goal. And that's kind of what we wanted to do and where we are trying to go. Consistency or lack of consistency is something that happens in sports, and we're just trying to figure out how do we get by that, and how can I help with that. But I know, and you guys should know this, we're all in this together, my group. This isn't just, but I'm the leader of the group, and this isn't good enough. It is absolutely not good enough. We're not meeting the standards and expectations we've set. This organization said, I feel for the fans. I really do. They're used to Stanley Cup championship teams with players like Dano, and anything less is unacceptable. And I take that on, and I believe that. So we're trying to take one step at a time. I'm trying to solve or try to help some things here, and working the phones daily. So that hasn't changed my job, but went back to the scouting meetings. Like, my job is bigger than just team personnel and team habits and team success. So with that, I'll open it up.
Tom, why, you talk about finding solutions and everything like that, why do you believe that you should be the one to find those solutions? Why do you believe you should still be the GM when you haven't gone further than the
Great question. No, it's a great question, and a question I know a lot of people probably want to know, but I'm very confident in where I've taken this team to, and how we've built through the core and added the pieces that we wanted to add to become a contender every year. The passion I have for New Jersey, the Devils, ownership, and more importantly, the fans. I love this. I love New Jersey. It's been my home for the past 10 years, 11 years. I'm trying to, because I do think I can be the one to help move this organization forward, and the goal has never changed, to be a Stanley Cup champion, and that's not going to change, and I believe I can do that.
And why should Devils fans trust that when like we say, you're working the phones and everything like that, but just haven't been any results this year?
Yeah, no, and you're right. It's another good question. Like, it takes two to tango, and trying to find the right deals to help add to this team is important. Again, there's no excuses, but every team feels they can make the playoffs, and every team wants to see where they're at. Where do they go? Do they continue to rise? Do they fall? Before they want to make personnel decisions and sell off. So trying to be patient there. In the meantime, when you watch how we played the other night and say, okay, that's the way we should look, and this is how we should play consistently, I believe in this group. I believe in this group. And for the fans, I know how passionate they are, and I know how desperate they want a champion. And I'm trying to continue to do what I was set out to do, and that's to build a contender.
You mentioned working the phones. Are you still looking to add in the short term right now?
Yeah.
Or- okay.
Yeah, I am. You know, listen, we've always identified certain areas of the team that we could help improve, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah. How do you plan to, I guess, evaluate the team as we get closer to the deadline? Because you are in a point where in the standings, if you don't start winning games soon, it's
Yeah,
going to be tricky.
great point. You can only hang your hat on there's X amount of games left, and the reality is there is plenty of runway, right? There's still plenty of runway for this group to come together, and them looking at me to help, pull things together, and that hasn't been lost, and that's what I'm trying to figure out where we can get better and which teams can do that, and when are they ready to work.
What are the areas you're targeting?
I'd like to add up front.
Okay.
I'd like to add up front, continue to give more depth. I think the entire league is probably looking for the same thing. You can figure it out. But that hasn't changed since last 2 summers ago. When you're trying to add last deadline, when you're trying to add, you identify those areas and you put your nose to the grindstone and work.
Tom, how often are you in contact with ownership, and are you at all worried about your job security here?
I don't worry about that. Life's too short to worry about things like that. Sitting in this position is a privilege, and I've never taken that for granted. I'm constantly in communication with ownership, my CEO, Tad Brown, Bob Myers, everybody who we all work together. When I said it earlier, we're all in this together, and we're all trying to find solutions, and we're all pulling the same way. And constant communications with David.
Tom, why'd you rush into the Markstrom contract? I mean, at the time, he was struggling, he was 35, and you still gave him $6 million and a no move clause.
Yeah, I don't think I rushed into it. It was something I've talked about with him and his agents since the day I traded for him. When I traded for him, the goal was to extend him, and that never changed. It never changed. When you go back and look at, Mark, you'd be the first to tell you about his ups and downs this year, but when you go back and evaluate him at that point, you looked at his playoffs and how well he played against the Carolina in the Carolina series, and felt this is just, he gives us a chance to win every game, and he doesn't have to be spectacular, and we don't ask our goalies to be spectacular every game. Just give us a chance. And I just felt working with Jake Allen, the tandem that they had, gave us the best opportunity to win hockey games, and I still believe that.
That's a 4-game sample size versus, he's got a sub 900 in his whole career in New Jersey.
You're right. You're right. And it doesn't take away he knows it. He's been up and down just like our team, and he needs to be better. He needs to be better. But I do believe that he can stabilize. Both players can stabilize us when they're playing their game.
If they don't, how are you going to get out of it?
Well, we'll cross that bridge if it comes to that. Right now, you watched how he played the other night. He played great against Minnesota. We have to bottle that, and that's up to the individual as well.
How close did you guys come to acquiring Quinn Hughes during that?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate, how close we came. I could just tell you, of course, we were interested in Quinn Hughes' service. But I can't speculate on what they got and what they wanted for us. I can't comment on it.
Did the number of no trade clauses hamper your ability to make moves
No,
with this team?
no.
Tom, it's been a year and a half of Sheldon Keefe. Is his job safe right now?
Well, we are in lockstep.
And just everybody else under him, Carlton, Shaw,
Absolutely.
Rogowski.
Yeah.
What's the latest with, I know Dougie Hamilton and Andre Flats names is out there. What's the latest on those guys, and how tough is it to sort of move contracts and move money right now, given how many teams don't want to sell or take on money?
Well, listen, we feel like we've built a team. I do believe we have depth. So as you continue to grow your own players, let's call it on the back end, some people are going to find themselves, sitting in the stands when we're fully healthy. So I think that's a really good problem to have, because you have that type of depth. I'm not going to get into any specifics of trying to move, or did I, or have I, did it stop me from making any type of deal. These are two respected players in particular, because you asked me about those two players. They're very respected in that locker room, and they will be treated with respect.
Where's your relationship at right now with Dougie? Was there any smoothing over you guys have had to do since the decision to scratch him?
No, Dougie and I have been in constant communication about, where we're at when we're fully healthy. I give Dougie a lot of credit. He was a healthy scratch the other night for no other reason but his current play, and he played really well. He came back strong, and I talked about the character of the person. He didn't sit, and Sheldon told him, "You have to be ready. You have to be ready," and he was.
How did that decision get made? You said you and Sheldon are in lockstep. I imagine a decision like that you talk about beforehand organizationally.
Oh yeah, for sure. You get to inject a new player into your lineup when we all felt it was time, and we looked at Kovacevic like that. Right? Kind of look at it like a trade. You get a player for the first time, and his personality in that room is incredible. People look up to him, so injecting him we felt would give us some life. And Simon Nemec was coming back from his injury and arguably was our best defenseman before he got hurt. So you want to kind of put him back in to get his game to where it was. So that was the decision.
It seemed like from what his agent said, they certainly felt like it was. I guess there were other factors other than his play. Is that something you discussed with him, and how do you kind of respond to those?
No, this was just a personnel decision and performance-based. And his agent and I have been in constant communication. So there's no secrets. There's no, lost in transition, transaction, whatever it is. Just want to make sure everybody's hearing the same message.
Tom, the reports were that you couldn't clear the space needed to acquire Quinn. Then Minnesota kind of swooped in.
No, not true.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
not true. There's always other pieces that probably could have gone out to make it work, but not true.
Just going back to the coaching staff, I know you took some of the onus here, but are you underwhelmed with how they've done in their position, and maybe is it some of this on the players as well?
Listen, it's on all of us.
Okay.
It's not on just the players' play, the coaches' strategy, and how they handle it. It's on everybody. But the message is the expectations and the standards haven't changed. And when you look at, I look in the mirror. I want everybody to look in the mirror. I want everybody to keep themselves accountable on how do I get better? What can I do differently? With Sheldon, we had a ton of injuries, but his attitude has always been next man up. It's how the group plays. It's not how an individual plays. And if you don't have we played some good games without Jack Hughes. We won 4 out of 6 at one point, but it's the entire group in the mentality of the pack mentality. We know what winning hockey looks like. We just got to consistently do it, and that's been the message from me to Sheldon, his assistant coaches. It's just not good enough. It has to get better.
You mentioned Jack, and he's great, but when he gets injured, it just seems like the team just doesn't live up to the standards. Are they always going to?
Well, you can't replace Jack. It doesn't matter.
How do you better prepare for that?
Well, I think it's playing differently. It's playing above pucks. Clearing out in front of our net. Be okay with winning 2-1. Lower score games, because maybe you're not going to have the pop in production you do, but you can still win games by playing the proper way. So I think a lot of that comes into play.
Does it frustrate you that you could have had all the players that Minnesota ended up trading for Quinn? And do you need to reevaluate the scouting department here?
No, I think when you look at some of those players and the ages they're at, those kids are on our team. These aren't prospects, you know, they're starting. Maybe that's a couple of years earlier, but again, I can't speculate on what type of players went to Minnesota versus what players we have.
With the Quinn Hughes situation, it just felt like maybe the team was waiting for something to happen, you know, with rumors and names out there. Any sense of a divide with all of that going on within the locker room?
No, it's a good question, because it's real. Like, let's face it, like, for us who've played, and Dano's one of the luckiest person because he played in one organization, never got traded. Sal's been moved. I've been moved, and it's uncomfortable, you know. So when you, especially with social media now, there's no secrets. There's no hiding. There's speculation on this player or that player. You know, it's a different world. There's a human element to this too. So yeah, I would have to say, of course, it affected people. You know, does my phone ring? Oh, it's Tom Fitzgerald. You know, and you live on pins and needles a little bit. That's I think natural and human. But that's the life of sports. You know, change is inevitable. And yeah, at the end of the day, you're only doing this for X amount of years, so you need to enjoy it. Enjoy every day. Like, you know, we are. It's a privilege to be in the situation. It was a privilege to play as long as I played, and I never took for granted. And no one ever owed me anything. So I kind of manage the same way. Like, this is business. So let's toughen up if you think it affects you, and just move on and live every day the same way and go from there.
And
Tom,
trying to conduct
what stands out about your bottom six, and do you feel like you have enough diversity in those two lines?
Great question. Great question, Christy. It's, you know, like when we set out to do this, adding a Connor Brown and a Dodonoff, you felt that they were going to be able to add some pop along with Nason and Carter kind of playing the same type of hockey they played for us last year, production-wise, and felt that we added enough. We added a 20-goal scorer in Dodonoff. But I really want to see this team where it's at healthy-wise with everybody on the lineup. You know, just when Dodonoff's on your fourth line, he gives you more depth, right? You know, and it gives you a deeper roster. So we got to see where this goes, because this was our vision from the start. This was the lineup of what we thought we were going to have, and unfortunately didn't have Dodonoff for other than 4 games or whatever. So that's what excites me moving forward. Like, I do think what we saw the other night wasn't a fluke. I think, you know, when we put our mind together and commit to playing away from the puck, offense seems to generate more when you could do that.
Would you say it was a bigger loss than maybe the outside would believe he is?
Well, anytime you lose a 20-goal scorer year out, year in, it's a loss. But to, you know, these points over here, like, it's next man up. Like, someone has to step up, and, you know, if you're not going to produce, don't get scored on. You know, play better defensively. You know, do things differently. Do things that help the team win. So, you know, again, I'm excited to see this team as a whole right now and where we can take it.
I think teams expect ebbs and flows during the course of the year, but when you see 9-0 to the Islanders, when you see 16-2 over a 3-game stretch, these are things that don't typically happen. Do you have any concern at all about the viability of the core that you built here, that this might not be the core that gets it done?
I don't. I really don't. I believe in the core. We believe, like we as an organization believe in this core. We've seen them at the top of their game, and we all like it. And you guys have seen them on top of their game, and you all like it and go, huh, that's a good core. So, no, I believe in this core.
Are you disappointed with the help that Luke Hughes has had this season, after, especially with the context of missing training camp and everything like that?
No, not at all. Again, we're talking about a 21, 22-year-old young defenseman where it's a harder position to be in than a forward. You can hide a forward and they can grow secretly, I guess, where when you're the last line of defense and you make a mistake and the puck goes in the net, you know, all eyes are on you. I think with Luke, we know his upside offensively and believe that as he continues to mature, as a player and a person, like that will continue to blossom. It's helping him become a better all-around defenseman, not just an offensive defenseman or offenseman. You know, teaching him and continue to work with him on defending and use your legs. And we've seen that in spurts where he uses his legs to check and gets the puck and how he transitions back up the ice. He's really good at it. So it's our job to help him become the overall defenseman that will help us continue to grow and win.
Tom, I have a question. And I go from experience. I've played on championship teams, and one thing I will say that I don't think sometimes people understand, because we didn't have social media. Uncomfortability and turmoil isn't a bad thing. I wanted to go out on the ice angry, and I thought we needed to see more of that, and we saw that against Minnesota when a healthy scratch, come back in, maybe his best game. That happens with players and stuff. But how do you bottle that for consistency? I think people think that it's not kumbaya. That was a championship teams I played on. We'd have brawls in the dressing room once in a while. Maybe that's a little much, but that's okay. So I think that galvanizes a group. And you saw them go through some adversity and have a really good game. How do they bottle that and keep that consistency moving forward? Because they showed, and you mentioned, injuries have been part of it. That's real. You guys, that's not justifying, but it's a matter of fact. Now you got the team pretty damn healthy, and you got tough decisions. And it's not always fair for players. They're going to sit. They got to. It's the way it is. I sat, and I was pissed off, but didn't think I deserved it. But you battle through it. And I think, how does this group collectively do that and get ready to? There's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of runway. How does that consistency come in your eyes?
I think you start out by saying you have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that's part of any pro sport, but in particular our game, because things do get tough. It's a hard sport. Like it's hard-nosed, there's fighting, there's hitting, there's confrontation, and maybe there's calling teammates out or pushing. You have to be comfortable in those uncomfortable situations, and that's growth, and that's what we're trying to do. And I'm trying to grow not only hockey players, but the talent in the front office, grow them to be better. It's all about development.
Tom, there was a report that Dougie wouldn't wait to go to San Jose. Just your reaction to that report, and would Luke have missed time if that had transpired in training camp?
I can't comment on that situation, or even I don't really want to go there, because Dougie's here. He played really well the other night, and when he plays his best hockey, we're a good team, because he can add to that.
Tom, is Sheldon running a different system here than he is in Toronto? I only ask because the numbers are, like, analytically, it just seem to be a bit down than what he had in Toronto.
I'm not really sure if it's exact, because a lot of teams now are switching to man-on-man after, lost face-offs. And I would have to go back and check, actually, to see exactly what James, I think, if I had a guess, he's continuing to evolve his system and where that can get better to make these small little subtle adjustments. But overall, I would guess it's very similar.
When you look at the standings and just how close they are, does that kind of maybe limit when you're trying to acquire players? Just because a lot of teams figure, they want to be acquire players now too. It's not like there's a lot of teams that are selling right now. Does that kind of limit you maybe your players?
That's the reality of it. That's the reality of how tight this league is. How good teams, or how good of a start teams have got off to and feel. Maybe there are teams that didn't see this coming. In the start of the year, when you're talking to teams and they're willing to move UFAs, for example, to get future assets, yeah, things have changed because I would say most teams right now are a sit and wait and watch where their team goes.
Do you feel like the team has moved away from what made them successful in 22-23?
Well, what made us successful in 22-23 was how good we were off the rush, right? We were a very good rush team and very quick strike type of team, and that's still how we want to play. But the reality is, other teams don't want to get in these track meets, we call them. So they know when they play us, if they get into a track meet, it's probably not going to look good. So where they're committed to playing on top of the puck and on top of our guys to limit those, and now it's how we adjust. You know, are we comfortable in those uncomfortable situations of now grinding it out down low and have to chip pucks in at certain times? So that's development and growth, and you know, how does an individual take on something that may be a little bit less comfortable than they're used to versus, I love watching our team play off the rush, but when it's not there, how do we win? We got to find a different way.
Hey, you touched on the core a little bit before, but is there any thought to maybe shake it up there a little bit and bring a different core piece in, maybe in exchange for one of those guys?
I believe in this group. I do think there's something there, and I'd like them to figure it out too, because when they're at their best, we all like what we see.
The offensive production of basically all the core players has gone down. Is there anything you attribute that to?
I really don't. I really don't.
Any question that playoffs is still the goal?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. Listen, I don't even look at standings, but I know that we're one streak away from being where we were at the start, where we really liked what we had and thought we're a good team. In all my years here, I've never seen a schedule like I saw this year. When you saw what we were coming out of the gate versus, and thought, wow. And then, you know, first 15 games, if you thought your record was going to be that because of the teams, then I would have been lying, you know. But that proved that when we put our minds to it, and we play the right way, and we're connected and we're committed, we can be a good team.
One of your fellow GMs had a press conference, and one of the quotes he said was, "You're not trading your way out of your problems." I'm wondering if you agree with that statement, and if you can't trade your way out of your problems, how do you get out of a rut that maybe this team has been in for the last month?
I do think that's true, and that goes back to, you know, trading core players. Like, how do you get out of this? I'd like to think the Minnesota game was the start of this. I think it's keeping yourself accountable and keeping your teammates accountable, and me keeping everybody accountable of the status quo isn't good enough, guys. So the mindset of going into a practice day today, a morning skate, like, what's going to change, you know? So I guess I do agree that you can't trade your way out of this, and you want to look at the leaders and the leadership group that we have to help say the right things but do the right things. Everybody's intention is to do the right thing, but actions need to be kept accountable.
Tom, if you can't trade your way out of it, and if that run doesn't come after this, you know, post-Minnesota game, then how do you get out of this? How does the ship get right?
Ryan, I'm going day to day here. You know, today's a new day. We want to build on the last day, and we want to push that forward, and become a better team each day. Not look ahead to the next road trip, or not look to the end of the year. I'm just worried about today, in the morning skate, and how well we look and crisp, and what's our mindset, and, you know, take on the Seattle Kraken tonight.
But as a GM, you probably do have to think a little long-term too, right? No?
Well, you're always thinking long-term, but when it comes to getting out of something, you take one day at a time, and that's all we're doing here as a group. We.
Do you think there's not the trade deadline is March 6th, but with the Olympic break coming up, is there more urgency in the conversations you and other managers are having now with the Olympic break coming up that there may be a flurry of moves?
I feel that. Yeah, I do. I feel that. I think that's real.
Is a Gritsuk extension something you plan on visiting, and where is that on your priority
Yeah,
list?
yeah. We do plan on that. He's been he was an unknown. Like, you didn't know what you were going to have when you talk about depth, scoring. You didn't know what you're going to have, and then when a player like that comes in and we feel he can pop and he can still be better, you feel very lucky to do this. So yeah.
Same question for Nemitz.
Yeah, well, he needs a contract. You know, he needs a contract. Where that goes, again, that's part of my job, but it's not for today.
Fitzy, as your lineup has become healthy, there's always that discourse about like who's in, who's out. those types of decisions, particularly, you go back to Dougie the other night, how do you sort of involve yourself, or if not, like what you put the pieces together, but when it comes to the lineup, what are you?
Well, Sheldon has carte blanche on the lineup. That's his.
What is the plan for Lenny Hamanaho? Should it be expected that he spends the full season in Utica?
Great question. Very lucky. We feel very fortunate. He's a dip your toe in the pool type of player. You got to get a little bit comfortable to feel better about his game, and we've actually talked about bringing him up, even just to practice with us, so he's comfortable here. So, we do. One, it's meritocracy. He's playing well, and we want to give him an opportunity, but we want to make sure he feels very comfortable in a situation that we can get the best out of him at that time.
Timo Meyer has played over 200 games now as a Devil. What have you seen with how he's been used in your lineup, and has he performed to the level you expected when you signed him to the suspension?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think his game today is in a good place. He looks like the power forward we envisioned him coming in, and when you come to a good team that we are, ice time is split up in a lot of different ways, but Timo comes in and he's got a great attitude. He's big, he's strong, he can skate. I love when the puck's on his stick in the slot because we know what he can do. So he's been a great ad.
What about Andre Palat? I mean, obviously, like the point how Put hasn't been there, and there was a report the other day that you actually overwent your analytics team to sign him whenever you signed him.
Oh, that's not true. We make decisions. I get information in all aspects of my group, and when you can add a two-time Stanley Cup champ because of culture, and they choose you, quite honestly, you feel like you're doing the right things. And Andre, he's a great pro, and he cares, and he really wants to push and help. Our players admire him. No, his production isn't where anybody visioned it, but it was more the experience to come in to help our young guys understand what winning looks like because of his experience.
Back-to-back seasons where Utica has basically from the jump been out of the playoff picture. How much does that concern you, and do you worry that could impact player development at all?
Another good question. When it comes to our American League, I don't look at winning a Calder Cup as a barometer of success. When I look at their daily numbers and see where they've been at and how much better they're getting, their production and their underlying numbers have been really good. Wins would follow, and I think we're seeing that right now. But you're right. The start, it wasn't good enough, and it hasn't hindered play development. When you look at what Colton White has done for us and has come in and played very well when needed, next man up mentality, it's because of his experience down there.
I feel like we should drill down on the no trade thing because it's out there. You give out too many of these. I'm just curious how you feel about that. What is your philosophy on that? And is it true? Are there something you might have regretted during the course?
Well, I think it's part of doing business. When you're selling your franchise and selling, the upside of New Jersey and what we can offer here to players, and it's just part of the decision making on both sides. And then when you do give it, you try to. You're getting it from somewhere else, and maybe it's a little less money, maybe it's a lower cap hit, but it's real. It's real, and we're not the only team dealing with it, but we're dealing with it. I'm dealing with it.
But it seems like some of the guys that you did hand pretty restrictive ones to, you didn't really get them at a incredibly low cap, like a lot, and Hamilton and Markstrom now.
Well, at that time, that was what the numbers were, negotiating with their agents, and what other teams were helping set that market.
Just to I know you've kind of touched it, but to firmly have it on the record. So the Quinn Hughes trade, you would have been able to move money if you had needed to make a potential deal happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Fit-
just gave me a couple minutes here, but I want to make sure we get to everybody, so just thanks.
Fitzy, I think like one of the reasons that like everyone's here, like we're all here, is just because the standards have been so high and for this team, and you're not probably where you want to be. Like, how do you balance what the expectations were, what you expect your standards are, and all that? Like, how do you balance that as a general manager in what you're doing?
I don't think you lower them
Yeah.
by any means because you're going through a rough time. You're facing adversity, right? All the best teams in the league go through adversity, you know, and I believe going through that adversity can help you come out on the other side on a positive note. And we're in that right now.
Yeah.
And we've got a long enough runway to really look in the mirror at ourselves to say, okay, what do we do today to get better? You know, and how do we apply that in our game? What have we learned from the Islander game versus the Minnesota game? And you apply that moving forward, and just, but the standards, they're not shrinking. You know, I said it before. I keep myself accountable to the fans, and I know that they're unhappy right now, and they're passionate fan base, and that's what I love about being here because of that fan base, and what their expectations are. So we're working to find ways to improve our team and improve, solve problems.
To get to that level of what you've set as that really high standard is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not lowering the standards.
No, I'm not questioning that. I'm
We
not
shouldn't do
questioning
that. Like, all the best teams in the league have created those standards, and I know our players want that. So that's what we're trying to do.
Fitz, is there a world where, from getting better, that the answers are here? It's just finding a way to get them to play to the best of their ability.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't believe in the status quo, but I do believe that when we're healthy, that we can be that good team that we all envision, and we can get back to that team that we were for the first 15 or so plus games, where we were a good team, and the teams and the rest of the teams in the National Hockey League knew it, and there was no off nights against the Devils.
Just to address, getting better and maybe making improvements, just how much future are you willing to mortgage with your young guys growing and maybe now the pool thinning?
I would say, depending on a deal, I just want to get better, and if that means moving future pieces to improve this team, I'm willing to do it. Guys, I really appreciate this. This was good, and I hope it helped. I hope I answered questions, and but I'll say it again, like this is on me. I run the organization. I'm at the top of the food chain here, and we're all working to find solutions.